That fucking great episode of Flash tonight. Oh my god. Woo! That was honestly one of the best episodes of The Flash so far. Um, Holy crap, I'm still in shock. Oh my god. And you know what's funny? I was just expecting this episode to be just another filler episode, because there's been a lot of that this season. Oh my god, was I wrong? This episode was, again, it was freaking awesome. Oh my god. Everything from... I'm serious, I'm at a loss of words here, guys. This episode was incredible. It was everything that I love about the show in it. Just, it was so story-driven. It was action-packed. It was everything just that I love about this show. It was just... This episode, just, again, so much in it that I loved. The only real gripe I had with this episode as a whole was the misuse of Rupture as a villain. I thought this episode was going to be more focused on, Cisco and his brother Dante and their relationship, because we only got, one episode of them back last year. And they, of course, they bring it up again in tonight's episode. And I thought it was going to be more of that because, Rupture is, Dante's, doppelganger from Earth 2, so I thought they were going to play more on that, and they played on it, a decent amount, enough to get me invested emotionally, and honestly, and then when Zoom goes in and kills Rupture at the end of the episode, and Cisco just goes back to Dante, and Cisco just has, the dead look on his face of, he just saw his brother die. How do you think that's affected him? Seriously, and Dante's just start asking where he's going, and he just gives Cisco a hug, and just oh my god, this show just makes me so emotional sometimes, and I'm sorry, give me a second here. But god, I liked the way Rupture brought out the brotherhood of, Dante and Cisco. I feel like as a villain, he was just the one thing in this episode that just for me didn't work as much as I would have wanted him to. But with that aside, this episode again was great, and just one of the things I really liked about this episode, and it was a minor thing, I liked how in this episode they used the hologram of Barry running around to give people hope in the city, and because Barry doesn't have his powers and all that, and they're trying to, give the city hope and give them something, that, show them, hey, the Flash is still around out there protecting people. It's a false hope, but they're just trying to, keep the citizens happy, and I don't like that kind of stuff. So I like that. I liked Henry in this episode, Barry's dad, just because he's been really underutilized this season, because he's for you to be a hero, I can't be here, so he leaves, which made no sense to me to begin with. In this episode, he made the most sense, especially when Wells kept pushing, we gotta do the particle accelerator explosion, we gotta do it again, we gotta do it again, we gotta do it again. And he was the one to say, are you at all concerned for my son's safety? My son could die. He was in a coma for 9 months. And but Henry was talking the most sense, and even Joe was like, I don't know. That's what I bringing John Wesley's ship on the show. I think was one of the better things that they did. Not just because he played the Flash before, but because he does bring a sense of humanity to the show. Even though the show gets really emotional sometimes, I like the father-son relationship he has with Barry, and shows how far he is willing to go to protect his son. Because we see a lot of that with Joe, but it's nice seeing that from Barry's actual dad. And it was so heartbreaking by the end of the episode, which, spoiler alert, I mean, if you guys are watching this, more than likely you've seen the episode, and if you haven't, well, you've been warned. When they activate the particle accelerator again, and you see Barry getting essentially vaporized, and everyone's reactions, from Iris to Joe to Henry, it's ice shit. I was tearing up. I was oh my, I know Barry's coming back. I know he was probably somewhere in the Speed Force or something, but that just made me that was so painfully emotional, just seeing the reactions of everyone, even Wells. God, and then Cisco runs in, and he's like, we did it, and Cisco was just what's going on? And then there's that pause, and it's just, God, this episode, just so much I want to talk about. But I don't want to, make you guys, bored with me rambling. But just that's so much emotion in this episode. And I gotta say, besides that last sequence, one of my favorite scenes in this episode was Iris revealing her feelings for Barry. Because the last few episodes, you've seen the build-up of her emotions for Barry and her feelings for Barry get deeper and deeper and stronger because she's... I brought this up before. Like, she's coming to the realization that, you know, she's married to Barry in the future. She's married to Barry on Earth, too. And Destiny is telling her, hey, you know, you're destined to be with Barry. And that's affecting her. And it's making her realize, like, Barry is the one for her. And when she's pouring her heart out to Barry, and Barry just kind of standing there silently... I guess this show just... Candace Patton is a great actress. And she delivered on that scene. In my opinion, that's one of her one of her best scenes in the show so far. I absolutely loved it. And I'm Team West Allen all the way. I've been waiting for this pretty much since early season 1. Because I'll admit, I brought this up before. I wasn't always the biggest Iris fan. She grew on me as a character once the writers actually started to treat her better and with respect and didn't sideline her. Wasn't until after they got rid of Patty Boring. Patty Spivot. Sorry. That they finally decided to, again, treat her with respect and give her, like, the chance to actually be with Barry without having some stupid roadblock. I mean, they tried giving her some kind of love interest with her boss or whatever. They quickly dodged that because they're like, oh, no. Like, we get it. Like, our fans don't want that. And they're finally doing it, and I'm happy, as you guys can tell. What else? And I gotta say, Zoom in this episode, for the last, basically since the reveal of Hunter Zolomon as Zoom, I feel like Zoom, like, him as a villain, he became less menacing because you take the mask off, and it's just some dude who's just crazy. He's not the most, he's not who Reverse Flash was, and that he wasn't a layered villain. He wasn't a villain that was... Zoom was terrifying, but at the same time, he just didn't feel like a really layered villain to me. And that's where, you know, once they took the mask off and they showed his backstory, and it's like, I feel like that menacing aspect of Zoom just kind of went down a bit for me. So whenever he came on screen and I knew it was just Hunter Zolomon in a mask doing a voice, I feel like I didn't take it as seriously. But in this episode, holy crap, Zoom is still terrifying. Zoom is still, like... What he does, I mean, while the character of Hunter Zolomon isn't as layered and as great of a villain as Reverse Flash was, he's way more terrifying. Oh my god. When they have, like, the cops stand up with Jitter and at Jitters, and, you know, and the cops take down Rupture, and Zoom appears, and he runs all fast, and he's like breaking necks, like, one after the other. And I'm like, holy crap, are they gonna kill Joe? Like, I had a feeling they wouldn't, but I was like, oh my... Like, the stakes were high. Like, that's the thing about this episode. Like, the stakes felt real. The stakes felt high. Like, I was at a point where I'm like, oh, is Joe gonna die? Like, I was seriously scared. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. Like, that's good television. That is what great TV is all about. Keeping the audience interested. Keeping the stakes high. Something I feel like Arrow stopped doing. And that's why, one of the reasons why I stopped watching that show. But in this episode of The Flash, just... And Zoom, and like I just said, even though he wasn't as layered as Reverse Flash or as layered as I would have wanted him to be, he's still a terrifying character. He's still a terrifying villain with the mask on. That's the thing. That's what keeps him terrifying, is that mask. And when he's just threatening the city as Zoom, that's when he's the most terrifying. That's when I feel like he's the better part of the... Like, the Zoom part of the character is still menacing and terrifying. The Hunter Zolomon part, Like, and this whole thing with Caitlyn, just... That's where it's like, as a villain, he's... But, like, the actual, like, Zoom, like, evil part, that's where it's really, like, holy crap, you know? So that's where, for me, like, in this episode, like, Zoom, like, just killed it, literally. But what, there's so much about this episode that I loved. Definitely kept me on the edge of my seat. And probably one of the bigger things in tonight's episode, obviously with the particle accelerator explosion again, and Barry is in that thing trying to recreate the explosion to give him his powers back, and he's like falling apart, and he's like pretty much gone, and he's like evaporating essentially. We see Wally West and Jesse during the time vault or whatever for a majority of the episode, right? And they finally escape, and of course, As soon as they were locked in that room, I knew shit was gonna go down. I knew they were gonna get their powers. Wally West and Jesse Quick. I'm so excited for this, and I know people have their problems with Wally West. I understand that. You know, he's not a character that everyone's gonna love, and the actor's portrayal of him isn't. He's not the Wally West that we know from the comics. He's his own Wally West, and I'm liking him more and more as a character. But finally, we're gonna see him and Jesse get their speed. We're finally gonna see the speedster showdown by the end of the season. I'm so freaking excited, and I want to know like what's going on with Barry. Like, is he trapped in the Speed Force? Like, what's going on with that? Because we see him evaporate, but obviously, in the comics that happened before, where he evaporated and he just went into the Speed Force. Hopefully, he's not gone for 20 years like he was in the comics. But yeah, I think. I love this episode. So I think with that being said, that's going to be it for me. So if you guys like what you see here, go ahead and hit subscribe below. Obviously, I review Flash on Tuesdays. I also review Legend of Tomorrow on Thursdays. I do a bunch of movie reviews and stuff all up on my channel. On Thursday, so it's Tuesday night. On Thursday night, I want to see Captain America Civil War. So that night, I'll have a review up for the movie if you guys are interested in that. And give this video a thumbs up. What did you guys think of this episode? Do you guys like it as much as I did? Did you guys have problems with it? Or if you did like it, what did you like about it? Let me know in the comment section below. So yeah, that's going to be it. So until next time, guys, have a good one.